Hello there, this is James S. Crawford, he knows 1978, and I'm not sure how many of the 12 people who will ever actually watch this video were around almost a decade ago when I got into the whole ideology debacle with people screaming, "That's not what the words mean," when what they were really saying was, "How dare you hurt my feelings by implying that I'm the bad guy?" But either way though, the term that I've now coined to describe what I was talking about back then is anti-ideology, a position, for lack of a less ironic term, which is defined entirely by what it opposes, with the defining example of an anti-ideology being fascism, because as I explained in the video links down at the underbar, the reason why no one can agree on a clear, simple, universal definition of fascism is that when you strip away all of the rhetoric, empty platitudes and conspiracy theories to discover the ideological core, you immediately discover that there isn't one, simply paranoid and impotent rage over the fact that the world is changing, other people exist and have rights too, and that makes us feel uncomfortable, threatened and judged. And beyond what we know as the far right as well, I would argue that all of what we know as the right is an anti-ideology which, no different from fascism, is built entirely upon the tribalistic conceit that all of society's problems are caused by the jealous, degenerate and inferior other, enabled by the elite. Ooh. And if only we could get rid of them, then everything would be, if not perfect, then at least fine and dandy. But what about positive right-wing positions like free market economics and family values? Mere rhetoric created to justify and rationalise their attacks on big government, single mothers and the gays, justifications and rationalisations which are conveniently abandoned the moment they believe that being a self-serving hypocrite is more beneficial. With this, of course, being the reason why what we know as the right is always contradicting and violating its own supposed principles and changing its narrative every 5 minutes, because ultimately there are no principles, only valid-sounding excuses and justifications for their hatred and fear of whatever they're condemning as socialism that week, because it makes them feel uncomfortable, threatened and judged. Meaning that when all is said and done, a fascist is simply a conservative, libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, or whatever other bullshit label they use to validate their self-serving bigotry and greed, who's figured out that the big, bad, and supposedly socialist government that they hate and fear will take away mere freedom can be taken over and used as a weapon to persecute and oppress the other, who they hate and fear even more. This being precisely what happened to the Republican Party under Trump, while on the other hand, what we know as the left is always banging the same age-old drum of equality and human rights, to the extent that during the Democratic primaries last year, people were genuinely complaining that Bernie was a broken record who needed to change his tune. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realise that poverty and being forced into bankruptcy simply to pay for your own medical treatment was such a bore for you. How about I start a bullshit culture war issue over the fear that some mythical boogeyman is going to hurt your feelings and make you feel uncomfortable by implying that you're racist? Would that be more entertaining for you?
And all the girlies say I'm pretty fly for a white guy.